DMITRI MENDELEEV, one of the most significant figures in the history of science, was born on February 8, 1834, in Tobolsk, a small town in Siberia, Russia. His birth took place in a time when Russia was largely agrarian and economically underdeveloped compared to the more industrialized nations of Europe. Mendeleev's father, Ivan Pavlovich Mendeleev, was a teacher of philosophy and the director of a school, while his mother, Maria Dmitrievna, came from a family of noble lineage. The Mendeleev family had a relatively modest lifestyle, but it was one grounded in education, which proved to be a vital influence on Dmitri's intellectual development. Tragedy struck the Mendeleev family early on, as Dmitri's father went blind when the boy was still very young. His father's declining health and subsequent death in 1847 left the family in financial distress, with Maria now taking charge of the household. Despite these hardships, Maria was determined to provide her children with the best education possible. She was a woman of remarkable intelligence, and it was she who inspired Dmitri's intellectual curiosity. Her commitment to learning was instrumental in shaping her son's future, and it was from her that he inherited a deep passion for reading and knowledge. In the midst of personal loss and financial hardship, Mendeleev's education began to take shape. Initially, he attended a local school in Tobolsk, where he demonstrated a natural aptitude for learning, particularly in the subjects of mathematics and physics. His early academic success was apparent, and by the age of 16, he left his hometown to pursue higher education at the University of St. Petersburg, a prestigious institution in Russia at the time. The decision to move to the capital marked a pivotal moment in his life, as it placed him at the heart of Russian intellectual and scientific activity. Mendeleev enrolled in the Department of Chemistry at the University of St. Petersburg in 1850. His time at the university was marked by both intellectual excitement and personal challenges. He was an ambitious student, eager to learn from the leading chemists of the time. His professors, including the renowned chemist Alexander Butlerov, played an important role in shaping his future. Mendeleev quickly distinguished himself as an exceptionally talented student, with a particular interest in chemistry and its practical applications. His academic diligence did not go unnoticed, and he was granted a scholarship to support his studies. While at the university, Mendeleev was introduced to the world of scientific experimentation, and his exposure to modern chemical theories piqued his curiosity. It was here that he began to focus on the study of chemical substances and their properties. Mendeleev was particularly fascinated by the periodic relationships between different elements. His early work reflected the growing interest in the classification of elements, a field that would soon define his career. However, his university years were not without difficulties. Mendeleev struggled with a rigid and conservative teaching style at St. Petersburg, which often conflicted with his desire for intellectual freedom and creativity. Upon completing his undergraduate studies, Mendeleev graduated in 1855 with a degree in chemistry. His academic prowess earned him a reputation as one of the brightest young minds in Russia. However, his early career did not follow a smooth path. Despite his talents, Mendeleev faced significant obstacles, particularly in securing a stable position in academia. His first job after graduation was as a teacher at a secondary school in the town of Baku, located in present-day Azerbaijan. While this position provided him with some financial stability, Mendeleev's true passion lay in the academic world, and he longed to return to St. Petersburg to pursue a career in scientific research. In 1856, Mendeleev's fortunes took a turn for the better when he was appointed to a teaching position at the St. Petersburg Technological Institute. This opportunity allowed him to return to his beloved city, where he began to immerse himself more deeply in scientific research. It was during this period that Mendeleev's intellectual horizons expanded beyond chemistry alone. He studied a wide range of subjects, from physics to engineering, and his work began to reflect a growing understanding of the interconnections between different scientific fields. While in St. Petersburg, Mendeleev's scientific contributions gained recognition. He was awarded the position of professor at the University of St. Petersburg in 1867, an honor that solidified his reputation as a respected chemist. It was also at this time that he began to delve into the study of the periodic relationships among the elements. Mendeleev's keen scientific mind, combined with his unique ability to synthesize disparate pieces of knowledge, laid the foundation for his groundbreaking work on the periodic table of elements. Dmitri Mendeleev's scientific journey began in the fertile intellectual environment of the University of St. Petersburg, where he spent several formative years developing his interests in chemistry and physics. Mendeleev's education at the university exposed him to various scientific disciplines, which influenced his eventual approach to chemistry. His exposure to diverse academic perspectives helped him cultivate a broad, integrative approach to scientific inquiry, a hallmark of his later work. In particular, Mendeleev was drawn to the ideas of prominent chemists such as Jöns Jacob Berzelius, who was instrumental in developing the modern system of chemical symbols and formulas. During his time at the University of St. Petersburg, Mendeleev encountered the works of many great thinkers who shaped his understanding of science. However, it was Berzelius's periodic classification of elements that most influenced Mendeleev's own thinking. Although Berzelius had already laid the groundwork for organizing elements based on their atomic weights, there remained much work to be done. Mendeleev's exposure to these ideas fostered his early interest in the fundamental properties of elements and their relationships to one another. His fascination with these relationships ultimately led to his groundbreaking development of the periodic table. At the university, Mendeleev's natural aptitude for mathematics further reinforced his analytical abilities. Chemistry, at the time, was still a developing field, and much of the existing understanding of the discipline was based on empirical observation rather than formalized theory. This reliance on observation over theory led Mendeleev to adopt a more methodical and systematic approach to studying the natural world. His academic experiences convinced him that chemical phenomena should be governed by an underlying order, and it was this belief that motivated his later research on the organization of elements. Mendeleev's academic success allowed him to pursue postgraduate work, and he was awarded a scholarship to study in Europe, which significantly expanded his intellectual horizons. Between 1859 and 1861, Mendeleev spent time in Germany, France, and other parts of Europe, where he attended lectures and collaborated with European scientists. His travels exposed him to the cutting-edge research taking place across the continent, especially in the fields of chemistry and physics. While in Germany, he worked under the guidance of notable chemists such as August Kekulé, who was exploring the structures of organic compounds. These experiences broadened Mendeleev's understanding of the current state of chemical theory, but they also provided him with an opportunity to challenge existing paradigms. Mendeleev's stay in Europe reinforced the notion that science was a dynamic, evolving field, and he began to develop a more critical and independent mindset. His observations during this time also reinforced his conviction that a systematic framework was necessary to explain the relationships between the chemical elements. This growing sense of purpose laid the groundwork for his eventual realization that the elements could be organized based on their atomic weights in a way that revealed their inherent order. During this period, Mendeleev's focus on chemistry deepened, and he began to concentrate more on the concept of atomic weights and the emerging idea that the properties of elements were linked to their atomic structure. At the time, the atomic theory was still in its infancy, and many aspects of chemical behavior remained unexplained. Mendeleev sought to address these gaps in understanding. His scientific mind was driven by the belief that the elements' properties were not random, but governed by laws that could be discovered through careful observation and analysis. One of the most critical intellectual developments during this time was Mendeleev's formulation of the periodic law. He recognized that by arranging the elements in increasing order of atomic weight, certain periodic trends emerged in their chemical properties. This realization marked the beginning of Mendeleev's path toward the creation of the periodic table. Mendeleev's scientific mind was capable of perceiving patterns that eluded many of his contemporaries, and this ability would prove essential in the formulation of his revolutionary theory. He also observed that some elements were missing from the known table of elements, and he predicted the properties of these missing elements, even before they were discovered. The development of the periodic table was not an isolated achievement, but rather a culmination of Mendeleev's broad scientific interests and rigorous academic training. His understanding of physics, particularly thermodynamics and the behavior of gases, played a significant role in shaping his approach to chemistry. Mendeleev was keenly aware of the emerging scientific discussions surrounding atomic theory and the nature of matter. His integration of these various ideas allowed him to envision a new way of categorizing the elements, one that transcended the empirical observations of previous chemists. As Mendeleev's scientific ideas began to take shape, his conviction that science should be both a creative and systematic pursuit became evident. He was not content with simply cataloging known elements. Instead, he sought to reveal the underlying structure of nature. This blend of creativity and systematization was central to Mendeleev's approach to science. His conviction that scientific progress could be made by recognizing patterns and organizing data led him to pursue his theory of the periodic table with relentless determination. Mendeleev's formation as a scientist was also characterized by a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. Unlike many of his contemporaries, who adhered to established ideas without question, Mendeleev was not afraid to go against the grain. His willingness to challenge the prevailing atomic theory, for example, demonstrated his intellectual bravery and his commitment to pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding. His ability to synthesize disparate pieces of knowledge and forge new connections between them was a testament to his unique scientific vision. DMITRI Mendeleev's scientific achievements were inextricably linked to the socio-political context of 19th century Russia. The intellectual and cultural climate in which Mendeleev lived profoundly shaped his approach to science and the way he interacted with both Russian society and the broader scientific community. Russia during the 19th century was a country on the brink of modernization, but it was also entrenched in deep social, political, and intellectual conservatism. The Tsarist government maintained strict control over academic institutions, while social and scientific innovations were often met with resistance. Despite these challenges, Mendeleev's work flourished, and his ability to navigate the tensions between tradition and innovation in Russian society helped him achieve lasting success. At the time Mendeleev began his career, Russia was a vast empire dominated by a rigid feudal system. The nobility held considerable power, while the majority of the population consisted of peasants who lived in poverty and had limited access to education. The education system itself was also under strict government control, with much of the academic curriculum emphasizing traditional religious teachings rather than contemporary scientific thought. This intellectual conservatism posed a challenge for Mendeleev, who was deeply invested in scientific progress and the pursuit of knowledge beyond the established norms. Mendeleev's ability to succeed in such an environment was a testament to his exceptional intellectual capabilities and his determination to overcome societal and institutional obstacles. His early academic experiences in Russia had prepared him for the challenges that lay ahead, but the broader socio-political landscape in which he worked remained restrictive. However, Mendeleev's eventual rise to prominence in the scientific community can be understood as part of the broader intellectual awakening that took place in Russia during the 19th century. This period saw the gradual emergence of Russian scientists, writers, and philosophers who sought to break free from the intellectual constraints imposed by the government and traditional institutions. One of the key elements that shaped Mendeleev's approach to science was the growing influence of Western European thought. Throughout the 19th century, European scientific advancements began to exert a significant impact on Russian intellectual life. Russian scholars were increasingly exposed to the ideas of prominent scientists, such as Charles Darwin, Michael Faraday, and Jöns Jacob Berzelius, whose theories and discoveries shaped Mendeleev's own thinking. Despite the conservative atmosphere in Russia, Mendeleev was part of a generation of Russian scientists who were eager to integrate Western scientific ideas into their own work. This intellectual exchange between Russia and Europe helped Mendeleev adopt a more global perspective on science, even as he continued to navigate the complexities of Russian society and politics. Mendeleev's career was also influenced by the relationship between the Russian government and the scientific community. The Tsarist government maintained tight control over academic institutions, including the University of St. Petersburg, where Mendeleev held a professorship. Scientific research in Russia was often shaped by the state's priorities, and many Russian scientists found themselves constrained by government regulations and the political climate. Mendeleev, however, was able to gain favor with the authorities, particularly through his work in industrial chemistry. His involvement in practical scientific applications, such as the improvement of Russia's oil industry, earned him recognition and prestige among the Russian elite. Mendeleev's ability to balance his commitment to scientific discovery with the political realities of his time allowed him to navigate the complex relationship between academia and government. Although Mendeleev benefited from the political favor of the Russian elite, his relationship with the government was not without tension. Mendeleev was known for his strong opinions and his willingness to challenge the status quo. His outspoken nature sometimes put him at odds with the authorities. For example, he was a vocal critic of the Tsarist educational system and its limitations. He advocated for greater academic freedom and was critical of the constraints placed on scientific research by the government. These views, though often controversial, were an important part of Mendeleev's intellectual identity. His belief in the importance of intellectual autonomy and the pursuit of truth helped shape his scientific methodology and his commitment to the periodic law. Mendeleev's relationship with the scientific community was also affected by the social and political realities of Russian society. As a chemist, he was part of a small but growing group of intellectuals who sought to modernize Russia's scientific and industrial sectors. Mendeleev's work was often seen as a bridge between the academic world and the practical demands of industry. His involvement in various scientific and industrial projects, including the development of a standard for Russia's burgeoning oil industry, placed him at the intersection of science and politics. His practical approach to science was in many ways a reflection of the broader societal push for industrialization and modernization in Russia during the 19th century. In addition to his work on the periodic table, Mendeleev made significant contributions to Russia's economic and industrial development. His expertise in chemistry was sought after by the Russian government, and he was appointed to various advisory positions in the state. Mendeleev's work on improving the quality of Russian vodka and his contributions to the development of a system of weights and measures were notable examples of his practical involvement in the nation's industrial progress. Mendeleev's ability to apply his scientific knowledge to real-world problems made him an influential figure in Russia's modernization efforts, particularly in the areas of chemistry and industry. Mendeleev's role in Russian society extended beyond his work as a scientist. He was also an influential educator and a passionate advocate for the advancement of science in Russia. As a professor at the University of St. Petersburg, Mendeleev had the opportunity to mentor and inspire a new generation of Russian scientists. His commitment to scientific education was evident in his efforts to reform the university curriculum, advocating for a more modern, scientific approach to teaching chemistry. Mendeleev's influence as an educator was critical to the development of the next generation of Russian chemists, who would go on to make significant contributions to science and industry. Despite the political and societal challenges of 19th century Russia, Mendeleev's work continued to thrive. His scientific achievements, particularly the development of the periodic table, helped to place Russia at the forefront of the scientific world. Mendeleev's ability to navigate the political and intellectual landscape of his time allowed him to become one of the most influential figures in the history of chemistry. His success was not only a product of his intellectual abilities, but also a reflection of the growing intellectual climate in Russia, which was beginning to embrace scientific progress and modernization. Dmitri Mendeleev's most celebrated contribution to the field of chemistry, and arguably to the history of science itself, was the development of the periodic table of elements. This groundbreaking achievement marked a paradigm shift in the understanding of chemical elements and their relationships to one another. The periodic table not only revolutionized chemistry, but also provided a foundational framework for future scientific discoveries. Mendeleev's journey to this monumental discovery was not instantaneous, but rather a product of years of careful observation, systematic analysis, and the application of scientific principles to the study of the elements. At the time when Mendeleev began his work, the known elements had been categorized based on their atomic weights, but a clear organizational system was still lacking. Several chemists, including John Newlands and Lothar Meyer, had already suggested the idea of grouping elements according to their periodicity, but their work lacked the rigor and predictive power that Mendeleev would later bring to the table. Mendeleev's ability to synthesize existing data while recognizing patterns that had previously gone unnoticed played a crucial role in the development of his periodic table. Mendeleev's insight into the periodicity of elements was largely based on the empirical observation that certain properties of elements, such as atomic mass and valence, repeated at regular intervals when the elements were arranged in increasing order of atomic mass. This observation was the key to his breakthrough. Mendeleev recognized that, when arranged properly, the elements exhibited a pattern that suggested an underlying order in nature. The elements were not randomly distributed, but were part of a coherent system governed by periodic laws. This realization marked the beginning of Mendeleev's work on the periodic table, and it would eventually lead him to propose a model that not only organized the known elements, but also predicted the existence and properties of undiscovered elements. In 1869, Mendeleev presented his first version of the periodic table to the Russian Chemical Society. His table was a bold and innovative attempt to categorize the elements in a way that made sense of their diverse properties. Mendeleev's table arranged the elements in rows, periods, according to their increasing atomic weights, and placed elements with similar chemical properties into vertical columns, groups. This organization revealed a periodic relationship between the elements, where the properties of elements repeated at regular intervals as their atomic weights increased. What made Mendeleev's table revolutionary was not just the way it organized known elements, but how it allowed for the prediction of elements that had not yet been discovered. One of Mendeleev's most remarkable achievements in creating the periodic table was his ability to predict the properties of elements that were missing from the table at the time. Mendeleev left gaps in his table where he believed undiscovered elements should fit, and he predicted the properties of these elements based on the patterns he observed. For example, he predicted the existence of elements like germanium, gallium, and scandium, all of which were discovered in the years following the publication of his table. The discovery of these elements and their properties closely matched Mendeleev's predictions, providing a powerful validation of his theory and solidifying his place as one of the greatest scientists of his time. Mendeleev's ability to predict the existence of unknown elements was a testament to the power of the periodic table as a scientific tool. His table was not a mere classification system, but a dynamic, predictive model that could be used to explore the unknown. This aspect of Mendeleev's work was revolutionary, as it demonstrated that scientific theory could not only explain observed phenomena, but also make predictions about future discoveries. The predictive nature of the periodic table was one of its most significant contributions to the field of chemistry, as it opened the door to further exploration and discovery in the natural sciences. Despite the groundbreaking nature of his work, Mendeleev's periodic table did not receive immediate, unanimous acceptance from the scientific community. Some of his contemporaries, such as the German chemist Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner, had already proposed similar concepts of periodicity, but Mendeleev's table was far more comprehensive and systematized. Critics of Mendeleev's table raised several objections, including the placement of certain elements out of order based on atomic weight, and the question of whether atomic weight was the most appropriate criterion for ordering the elements. However, Mendeleev's table stood up to scrutiny, and over time, it became widely accepted due to its remarkable predictive power and the clarity it brought to the organization of the elements. The acceptance of Mendeleev's periodic table was also facilitated by the increasing empirical evidence supporting the idea of atomic structure. As the atomic theory gained traction in the late 19th century, the idea that elements could be organized based on their atomic weights and atomic numbers became more widely accepted. Mendeleev's work was also supported by the discovery of new elements that filled in the gaps in his table, further validating his predictions. By the 1870s and 1880s, Mendeleev's periodic table had become a central feature of chemical theory, and it was increasingly recognized as one of the most important contributions to the understanding of chemical behavior. In addition to his contributions to the periodic table, Mendeleev's work on chemical theory was instrumental in advancing the field of chemistry. His research on the behavior of gases, the relationship between chemical elements and atomic volume, and the concept of chemical affinity all played a critical role in shaping the course of chemistry in the 19th century. Mendeleev's ability to integrate ideas from different branches of science, including physics and thermodynamics, allowed him to develop a more holistic view of chemical phenomena, which set his work apart from that of his contemporaries. Mendeleev's periodic table was not static. It evolved over time as new elements were discovered and as the understanding of atomic structure improved. Mendeleev continued to refine his table. In 1871, he revised it to include the concept of atomic number, which ultimately led to the modern version of the periodic table. However, Mendeleev's original insight into the periodicity of the elements remained the cornerstone of his work, and it continues to serve as the foundation for the study of chemistry. The periodic table's impact extended far beyond chemistry. It influenced the development of other scientific disciplines, including physics, biology, and material science. The organization of the elements into a systematic framework provided a foundation for future research and discovery, and it remains one of the most enduring achievements in the history of science. Mendeleev's work on the periodic table not only transformed the field of chemistry, but also paved the way for new scientific discoveries and innovations that would shape the modern world. The development of the periodic table by DMITRI MENDELEEV is universally regarded as one of the greatest achievements in the history of science, and its impact continues to resonate in modern scientific thought. Mendeleev's creation not only transformed the field of chemistry, but also laid the foundation for future discoveries in physics, biology, and material science. By organizing the elements in a systematic way and revealing the underlying order in their properties, Mendeleev provided a powerful tool for understanding the structure of matter. The legacy of the periodic table extends beyond Mendeleev's own time, influencing generations of scientists and serving as an essential framework for advancing scientific research. The immediate impact of Mendeleev's periodic table was felt most strongly in the field of chemistry. For chemists, the table provided a roadmap for understanding the relationships between elements and their properties. It enabled scientists to predict the chemical behavior of elements based on their position in the table, allowing for a more structured approach to studying chemical reactions. The periodic nature of the table also illuminated the underlying patterns in the properties of elements, which had previously been observed but lacked a coherent explanation. Mendeleev's organization of the elements made it possible to see these patterns clearly and systematically, advancing both theoretical and practical chemistry. One of the most enduring aspects of Mendeleev's periodic table is its ability to accommodate new discoveries. The predictive power of the table, exemplified by Mendeleev's accurate predictions of the properties of undiscovered elements, was a key factor in its eventual acceptance by the scientific community. As new elements were discovered, they fit neatly into the gaps left by Mendeleev, reinforcing the validity of his table. In the years following the publication of his work, several elements, such as germanium, gallium, and scandium, were discovered, and their properties closely matched the predictions Mendeleev had made. This not only validated his ideas, but also demonstrated the utility of the periodic table as a predictive tool in chemistry. Mendeleev's table continued to evolve over time, and as the understanding of atomic structure advanced, so too did the table itself. In the early 20th century, the discovery of the electron and the development of atomic theory led to the understanding that atomic number, rather than atomic weight, should be used to organize the elements. This insight, largely due to the work of scientists like Henry Moseley, further solidified Mendeleev's framework. While the modern periodic table is based on atomic number, the core idea of periodicity remains unchanged, and Mendeleev's original vision continues to guide the organization of elements. Thus, Mendeleev's work has been instrumental not only in shaping the study of chemistry, but also in the development of other scientific fields that rely on the properties of elements. Beyond its scientific influence, Mendeleev's periodic table has had a profound cultural impact. The table's systematic nature and the underlying order it revealed in the natural world resonated with broader intellectual movements, especially those that sought to understand and explain the laws governing the universe. In a time when scientific inquiry was becoming increasingly influential in shaping modern society, Mendeleev's work provided a sense of harmony and coherence that aligned with the growing faith in science as a means of uncovering the fundamental truths of nature. His table symbolized the power of human reason and empirical observation to reveal the hidden patterns of the world, reinforcing the broader cultural belief in the potential of science to transform society. In addition to its scientific and cultural significance, Mendeleev's periodic table has had a lasting impact on education. The table is a staple of chemistry curricula around the world, and it remains one of the first major scientific concepts introduced to students. The simplicity and elegance of the table make it an accessible entry point into the study of chemistry, and it serves as a key reference throughout a student's scientific education. The table not only helps students understand the relationships between elements, but also provides a framework for thinking about the organization of matter at the atomic level. Mendeleev's work continues to shape the way chemistry is taught, and the periodic table remains one of the most enduring symbols of scientific inquiry. Mendeleev's influence also extended beyond the confines of academia. His work had important implications for industrial chemistry and the development of new materials. The periodic table helped identify the properties of elements that were useful in industrial processes, leading to the development of new technologies and materials. For example, Mendeleev's classification of elements paved the way for the discovery and production of new alloys and compounds, which had wide-ranging applications in fields such as metallurgy, electronics, and pharmaceuticals. His work directly contributed to the industrialization of Russia and other nations, highlighting the practical impact of scientific discoveries on society and the economy. Furthermore, Mendeleev's work inspired subsequent generations of scientists to think in new ways about the organization of matter. His development of the periodic table was part of a broader trend in 19th century science toward the search for fundamental principles that could explain the behavior of the natural world. Mendeleev's work provided a model for how scientific theories could be used to uncover the inherent order of nature, and it encouraged future generations of scientists to approach their work with a sense of curiosity and a desire to uncover patterns and connections that had not yet been discovered. Mendeleev's legacy as a pioneer of systematic, empirical science has inspired countless researchers and continues to influence modern scientific inquiry. In addition to inspiring scientists, Mendeleev's legacy also had an impact on the broader public understanding of science. His work exemplified the power of scientific reasoning and empirical observation to unlock the mysteries of the natural world. Mendeleev's periodic table became an iconic representation of scientific progress and human achievement, symbolizing the ability of science to provide clarity and understanding in a complex world. The table became a tool not only for chemists but also for educators, students, and the general public who sought to understand the underlying structure of the universe. Mendeleev's contributions were not limited to the development of the periodic table. His work in other areas of chemistry, such as his investigations into the properties of liquids, gases, and solutions, also had a lasting impact on the field. His work on the measurement of specific volumes and his study of the behavior of gases laid the foundation for the modern understanding of thermodynamics. Additionally, his research on the principles of chemical affinity and the atomic theory helped shape the development of chemical bonding theory. His commitment to advancing scientific knowledge and his ability to apply his findings to practical problems were central to his enduring influence. Finally, Mendeleev's legacy is evident in the continued relevance of his work to contemporary scientific research. The periodic table remains an essential tool for understanding the behavior of matter at the atomic level. Advances in nuclear physics, material science, and quantum chemistry have only reinforced the importance of Mendeleev's work. Today, scientists continue to expand upon his discoveries, exploring new elements, refining our understanding of atomic structure, and applying his framework to cutting-edge research in a variety of fields. Mendeleev's contributions to science have transcended time and remain a fundamental part of the scientific enterprise. As Dmitri Mendeleev's career advanced, his later years were marked by both personal and professional challenges that contrasted with the immense recognition he eventually achieved. The groundbreaking discovery of the periodic table had placed him at the forefront of the scientific community, but this period of acclaim was also accompanied by controversy, tension with colleagues, and the weight of administrative responsibilities. Throughout this time, Mendeleev remained deeply committed to the advancement of science, even as the complexities of Russian society and politics began to encroach on his work. His later years also provided an opportunity for reflection on his legacy, which would ultimately solidify his position as one of the foremost figures in the history of chemistry. In the 1870s and 1880s, Mendeleev was already a recognized authority in chemistry, but he was far from immune to the difficulties faced by prominent scientists in Russia. One of the most notable challenges was his strained relationship with other prominent chemists. The scientific community was often divided by differing theories and approaches, and Mendeleev's sometimes aggressive advocacy for his own ideas led to contentious debates. For instance, his insistence on the periodicity of elements based on atomic mass, even when some elements did not fit neatly into his system, sparked criticisms from those who preferred different methods of classification. Additionally, Mendeleev's criticism of some of his contemporaries' work, such as that of Johann Dobereiner and Lothar Meyer, who had also contributed to the concept of periodicity, led to some rivalries and tensions within the scientific community. While Mendeleev's relationships with his peers were often fraught with conflict, his work continued to receive significant recognition, both in Russia and abroad. He was appointed to several prestigious academic positions, including the chair of the Department of Chemistry at the University of St. Petersburg, where he continued to influence the next generation of Russian scientists. In addition to his role as an educator, Mendeleev was appointed to various governmental roles, such as his involvement in the Russian State Commission on the Standardization of Weights and Measures, where he applied his scientific knowledge to practical issues affecting the Russian economy. His influence on Russian industry, particularly through his work on the oil industry and the development of petrochemical processes, further cemented his status as a leading figure in both academic and industrial circles. Despite these professional successes, Mendeleev's personal life was not without its difficulties. His temperament, characterized by an intense dedication to his work and a sometimes combative nature, led to frequent personal and familial struggles. His first marriage to Fyodorova Nikitikna, with whom he had 2 children, ended in divorce, and his second marriage to Anna Ivanovna Popova, with whom he had 3 more children, was also marked by significant personal challenges. Mendeleev's devotion to his scientific endeavors sometimes placed a strain on his family life, and the intense demands of his work left him little time for personal matters. Yet, despite these tensions, Mendeleev's family remained an important part of his life, and his children later went on to make significant contributions in their own right. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as Mendeleev's reputation grew, so did his sense of isolation within the scientific community. While his contributions to chemistry were immense, Mendeleev often felt that his work was not fully appreciated by his peers, particularly outside of Russia. His involvement in various scientific debates sometimes led to his alienation, as he was a fiercely independent thinker who did not always conform to the established norms of scientific discourse. This sense of isolation was compounded by the political atmosphere in Russia, where the conservative nature of the Tsarist regime made it difficult for scientists like Mendeleev to freely express their ideas without fear of censorship or persecution. Mendeleev's critiques of the Russian educational system and his calls for reform, for example, were met with resistance from political authorities who preferred to maintain the status quo. Mendeleev's later years also saw the rise of new scientific paradigms that challenged some of his earlier work. As the 20th century progressed, the discovery of subatomic particles, the development of quantum theory, and the redefinition of atomic structure altered the understanding of chemistry and physics. These advancements prompted some to reassess Mendeleev's periodic table, particularly as the concept of atomic number emerged as a more accurate means of organizing the elements. Mendeleev's periodic table, which had been based on atomic mass, was gradually replaced by the modern periodic table, which is based on atomic number. While Mendeleev did not fully embrace these new developments, he was nevertheless acknowledged for having laid the groundwork for these later discoveries. His recognition of periodicity in the elements remained an enduring cornerstone of modern chemistry, even as the table itself evolved. Although Mendeleev faced challenges in his later years, he remained an active participant in scientific and public life until his death. His contributions to chemistry and science were widely recognized by his peers, both in Russia and abroad. In 1897, Mendeleev was elected a foreign member of the Royal Society of London, one of the highest honors that a scientist could receive. This recognition not only reflected the esteem in which Mendeleev was held within the scientific community, but also signaled the increasing international acknowledgement of his achievements. Mendeleev's work was also honored by several other scientific institutions, and he received numerous accolades for his contributions to the field of chemistry. Mendeleev's legacy in his later years was also shaped by his enduring commitment to the advancement of science and education in Russia. As an advocate for the modernization of Russian science, Mendeleev worked tirelessly to improve the country's academic institutions and to foster scientific inquiry. He advocated for the establishment of a central scientific academy and supported the development of scientific journals in Russia. His dedication to science was not limited to his own research. He was also passionate about encouraging the next generation of Russian scientists to pursue rigorous, empirical methods of inquiry. Mendeleev's influence on the scientific education of Russia was profound, and his efforts to modernize the country's scientific infrastructure left a lasting mark on the nation. As Mendeleev grew older, his health began to decline, and the challenges of his later years took their toll on his physical and mental well-being. He continued to work as best as he could, but his energy and enthusiasm for his scientific endeavors gradually diminished. In 1907, DMITRI MENDELEEV passed away at the age of 72, leaving behind a legacy that would continue to shape the future of science for generations to come. His death marked the end of a remarkable life, one dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and the understanding of the natural world. Mendeleev's death did not mark the end of his influence. His periodic table, the cornerstone of his legacy, continues to be a vital part of modern chemistry, and his contributions to the field are still celebrated today. His ability to organize the elements into a coherent system revolutionized the study of chemistry and inspired future generations of scientists. Mendeleev's legacy is also found in the practical applications of his work, particularly in the fields of materials science, industrial chemistry, and the development of new technologies. His name remains synonymous with scientific innovation, and his contributions continue to be integral to the education of future chemists. DMITRI MENDELEEV's impact on the scientific community extends far beyond the development of his famous periodic table. While his organizational structure of the elements remains one of the most pivotal achievements in chemistry, Mendeleev's influence permeated many other areas of science, shaping the course of research and development across multiple disciplines. His work left an enduring legacy that touched the realms of physics, materials science, biology, and even economics. Mendeleev's influence, both direct and indirect, continues to resonate in contemporary science, demonstrating how a single discovery can catalyze a revolution in understanding and lead to advancements far beyond its original scope. First and foremost, Mendeleev's periodic table transformed chemistry from a field of isolated facts and observations into a more coherent and systematic science. Before Mendeleev, chemists had begun to note patterns in the properties of elements but lacked a unified framework to explain them. Mendeleev's table not only organized the elements by their atomic mass, but also revealed the periodicity of their properties, laying the foundation for the future study of atomic structure. This concept of periodicity, which shows that certain properties of elements repeat at regular intervals, became a central tenet of chemistry, influencing the way chemists approach their work for generations. The predictability inherent in the table prompted chemists to search for patterns in other areas of science, broadening the scope of scientific inquiry and fostering interdisciplinary collaboration. Mendeleev's table also provided a predictive framework that had a profound effect on the development of other scientific fields. The ability to predict the properties of undiscovered elements proved to be an invaluable tool, not only for chemists but also for physicists. For instance, Mendeleev's predictions of the existence and properties of elements like germanium, gallium, and scandium were later confirmed as new elements were discovered and found to align perfectly with his predictions. This predictive power lent credibility to the periodic table and signaled the potential for systematic order to be applied to other scientific endeavors. Mendeleev's work encouraged scientists in other fields, particularly in physics, to search for underlying principles that could unify and explain a wide range of phenomena. The study of atomic structure and quantum mechanics owes much to the groundwork laid by Mendeleev. Although Mendeleev himself did not live to see the advent of quantum theory, his identification of the periodicity in the properties of elements helped set the stage for later breakthroughs. In particular, Mendeleev's recognition that atomic properties were related to some fundamental, yet unknown quantity, what we now understand as atomic number, suggested that atoms were not merely arbitrary, but were governed by a deeper structure. The subsequent work of scientists such as Ernest Rutherford, Niels Bohr, and later, the development of quantum mechanics, was built on the assumption that the periodicity Mendeleev had discovered could be explained by the behavior of subatomic particles. In this way, Mendeleev's discovery became a foundational stepping stone in the development of modern physics. Mendeleev's influence also extended into materials science. By organizing elements based on their properties, the periodic table made it possible to predict the behavior of materials when different elements were combined. The table became a critical reference for the development of new materials, particularly in the burgeoning industries of metallurgy and chemical engineering. For example, Mendeleev's work aided in the development of new alloys and compounds, which played a pivotal role in the Industrial Revolution, as well as in the creation of modern technologies. His classification system helped material scientists understand how different elements interacted with each other, leading to advances in everything from the construction of buildings to the creation of new medical treatments. Furthermore, Mendeleev's influence was also felt in the field of biology. Though not directly involved in biological research, Mendeleev's periodic classification of elements helped shape the understanding of biochemistry. The principles of the periodic table have been instrumental in understanding the roles of different elements in living organisms. The importance of elements such as carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus in the biological processes that sustain life can be traced back to Mendeleev's work. His discovery that elements have specific, recurring properties laid the foundation for studying how atoms combine to form molecules and how these molecules interact to support life processes, thereby influencing the development of modern biochemistry and molecular biology. In addition to his influence in the sciences, Mendeleev's work also had practical implications for economics and industry. Mendeleev's research into the chemistry of materials and his involvement in the Russian industrial sector helped establish new industrial processes, especially in the extraction of natural resources and the chemical industry. His understanding of the properties of different elements helped Russian industry, particularly in the fields of oil refining, metallurgy, and manufacturing. Mendeleev's work on the periodicity of elements not only helped scientists understand their characteristics, but also provided industrialists with the knowledge they needed to improve the efficiency of chemical processes and develop new products. This fusion of theoretical science and practical application exemplified Mendeleev's ability to impact both academia and industry simultaneously. As Mendeleev's ideas spread globally, they also had a transformative effect on the education system. His periodic table became an essential teaching tool in chemistry classrooms, influencing the way chemistry is taught and learned worldwide. The visual representation of the elements in the periodic table has made it a central figure in educational materials, helping students understand the relationships between elements and the way they interact in chemical reactions. The organization of elements into groups and periods, which Mendeleev's table popularized, serves as the backbone of modern chemistry education and continues to be an indispensable reference for students and professionals alike. Mendeleev's influence also spread through his numerous writings and lectures, in which he communicated his ideas to both the scientific community and the general public. He wrote extensively, not only on chemistry, but also on subjects such as education, economics, and even philosophy. His ability to connect his scientific knowledge to broader issues, such as the development of Russian industry and the need for modernization in education, demonstrated the far-reaching impact of his ideas. In his lectures and writings, Mendeleev stressed the importance of scientific research for the advancement of society and the need for a systematic approach to understanding the natural world. His ability to articulate the relevance of his work to a wide range of audiences contributed to the lasting impact of his ideas on society. Globally, Mendeleev's influence extended well beyond Russia. His periodic table was quickly adopted by scientists in Europe, North America, and beyond. The scientific community embraced Mendeleev's framework, and the periodic table became a fundamental tool for research in laboratories worldwide. Mendeleev's work was not limited to any one country or region. His ideas transcended national borders and became a cornerstone of global scientific collaboration. The recognition of his contributions by institutions such as the Royal Society of London and the French Academy of Sciences solidified his place as a key figure in the development of modern science. His influence is still felt in laboratories around the world, where the periodic table remains a crucial reference in chemical research. Moreover, Mendeleev's work also inspired future generations of scientists to think more systematically about the organization of knowledge. His success in identifying a coherent structure in the seemingly chaotic world of chemical elements provided a model for scientists in other fields, from physics to astronomy to psychology. The idea that nature could be organized in a systematic and predictive way inspired a new era of scientific discovery, where scientists sought to uncover the hidden order behind complex phenomena. Mendeleev's contributions laid the groundwork for the kind of rigorous, empirical, and systematic scientific inquiry that defines modern science. The 20th and 21st centuries have witnessed an unparalleled evolution in the understanding of chemistry and physics, much of which owes its foundation to the work of DMITRI MENDELEEV. As science advanced and new discoveries were made, Mendeleev's periodic table continued to be a critical tool in explaining the relationships between elements, guiding new fields of research, and fostering a deeper understanding of atomic structure. Despite the emergence of new scientific theories and the refinement of his own ideas, Mendeleev's legacy remained integral to scientific inquiry and continues to shape modern chemistry and other disciplines today. His groundbreaking work, which had initially transformed chemistry in the late 19th century, is still a symbol of scientific ingenuity, and its applications resonate throughout the sciences and even in broader societal contexts. Mendeleev's periodic table has stood the test of time, becoming a universal model used in chemical education and research. In the early 20th century, as the understanding of atomic structure deepened with the discovery of the electron, proton, and neutron, scientists began to refine the original table. The introduction of atomic number as a more accurate means of organizing the elements superseded Mendeleev's original ordering by atomic mass. Despite this, Mendeleev's fundamental insight that elements exhibit periodicity in their properties remained valid, forming the bedrock upon which the modern periodic table was constructed. The eventual rearrangement of the table based on atomic number, championed by Moseley, was a refinement of Mendeleev's work, but it was his vision that had provided the first glimpse of a systematic order in the elements. One of the most significant contributions to Mendeleev's legacy was his direct influence on the discovery of new elements. His prediction of missing elements and their properties in the original table was strikingly accurate, and this had a profound impact on the scientific world. The prediction of elements like gallium, germanium, and scandium, all of which were discovered after Mendeleev's publication, provided powerful evidence that Mendeleev's model was more than just an abstract theory. It was a powerful tool for discovery. These discoveries, which confirmed Mendeleev's predictions, validated the idea that the periodicity of elements was a real and fundamental characteristic of nature. Mendeleev's ability to predict the existence of elements not yet discovered demonstrated the true power of his system and ensured that his legacy would be cemented as one of the great achievements in scientific history. Mendeleev's legacy is also evident in the development of new fields of research, particularly in the areas of quantum mechanics and atomic theory. The periodicity he observed in the elements was later explained through the development of quantum mechanics, which provided a theoretical framework for understanding the behavior of subatomic particles and their interactions. The work of scientists such as Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Erwin Schrödinger expanded on Mendeleev's ideas, offering a deeper understanding of atomic structure and the arrangement of electrons within atoms. Quantum mechanics reinforced the idea of periodicity in elements, explaining it as a consequence of electron configurations and the way electrons fill atomic orbitals. This scientific development further solidified Mendeleev's contribution to the field of chemistry and physics, as his original insights proved to be compatible with the emerging theories of the 20th century. In addition to his influence on fundamental science, Mendeleev's contributions were integral to the advancement of practical chemistry. The creation of the periodic table enabled chemists and engineers to develop more efficient methods for synthesizing new compounds and materials. The understanding of element properties provided by the table played a critical role in industrial applications, ranging from the creation of new alloys to the development of pharmaceuticals. Mendeleev's work also helped further the exploration of the periodicity of physical properties, such as atomic radius, ionization energy, and electronegativity, which became crucial in fields like materials science, catalysis, and biochemistry. As new materials and technologies emerged, Mendeleev's table continued to be an indispensable reference tool, fostering advancements in both the academic and industrial spheres. The global impact of Mendeleev's work was not confined to scientific research and development alone. As his periodic table became an iconic symbol of scientific progress, it also took on cultural and symbolic significance. The periodic table, with its elegant design and systematic arrangement, became an emblem of the rational, ordered approach to understanding nature. Its presence in educational institutions around the world, from high school classrooms to universities, highlighted the importance of scientific knowledge in society and showcased the power of human ingenuity. The table's continued use as a teaching tool in chemistry education helped shape generations of students, instilling in them an appreciation for the interconnectedness of the natural world and the elegance of scientific thought. As the 20th century progressed, Mendeleev's legacy remained influential in the development of international scientific organizations. His work was frequently cited in the efforts to standardize chemical nomenclature, units of measurement, and even in the creation of the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, IUPAC. Through these efforts, Mendeleev's principles of classification and periodicity became incorporated into global scientific conventions, further entrenching his ideas in the scientific lexicon. The modern periodic table, with its arrangement of elements based on atomic number and its periodic properties, continues to be a central reference for IUPAC and other scientific bodies as they regulate and standardize chemical research worldwide. In the latter half of the 20th century and into the 21st century, Mendeleev's ideas have been essential in the development of the field of nanotechnology. The periodicity of the elements, combined with the growing understanding of atomic and molecular interactions, has been crucial in the manipulation of materials at the nanoscale. Nanotechnology relies heavily on the properties of individual elements and their interactions, and the periodic table provides a valuable framework for understanding these behaviors. The continued use of the periodic table in fields as diverse as materials science, electronics, and drug delivery highlights Mendeleev's lasting influence on cutting-edge technological developments that are shaping the future. Mendeleev's contributions have also transcended the academic and scientific realms, impacting areas such as environmental science, energy research, and sustainability. His understanding of the properties of various elements laid the groundwork for future studies of renewable energy sources and the search for sustainable materials. The development of alternative energy solutions, particularly in the context of battery technology and solar power, has benefited from Mendeleev's work, as the periodic properties of elements like lithium, silicon, and hydrogen have been central to advancements in these fields. Additionally, Mendeleev's insights into the chemical interactions of elements continue to inform research into green chemistry, a discipline focused on reducing the environmental impact of industrial processes. The enduring relevance of Mendeleev's work is further demonstrated by the continued expansion of the periodic table itself. In recent decades, scientists have added new elements to the table, filling in the gaps that Mendeleev had left for undiscovered elements. The discovery of super-heavy elements, those with atomic numbers greater than 104, has pushed the boundaries of the table even further. These discoveries, which are the result of cutting-edge research in nuclear physics and chemistry, build directly on Mendeleev's work. His table, which began with only 63 elements, now contains over 100, as scientists continue to uncover the mysteries of the atomic world. Mendeleev's predictive power remains a testament to the enduring accuracy and utility of his original insights. While Dmitri Mendeleev is widely celebrated for his scientific genius, his life was not without its share of personal struggles and philosophical challenges. Beneath the surface of the academic icon lay a man who wrestled with deep personal doubts, societal expectations, and the weight of his pioneering work. Mendeleev's life and career were shaped not only by his intellectual brilliance, but also by the personal and philosophical dilemmas he encountered along the way. His journey through these challenges offers a more nuanced understanding of the man behind the periodic table and provides insight into the broader context in which his scientific contributions were made. Mendeleev was born into a time of great political and social upheaval in Russia. His early years were marked by the instability of his family life, particularly after the death of his father when Mendeleev was a child. His mother, who was left to raise him and his many siblings alone, faced significant financial difficulties. The hardships that Mendeleev experienced in his youth would have a lasting impact on his worldview. His early life in a modest family was marked by struggle, but it also gave him a sense of determination and resilience that would stay with him throughout his career. These formative years of poverty and hardship would not only influence his work ethic, but also instill in him a deep understanding of the challenges faced by ordinary people, which would later play a role in his views on education and societal progress. Despite his difficult early life, Mendeleev was able to pursue his education with the support of his mother and his teachers. He attended the Imperial University of St. Petersburg, where he displayed extraordinary academic potential. However, his time at the university was not without personal challenges. Mendeleev's intellectual prowess often put him at odds with his peers and professors, as he was sometimes seen as a nonconformist who questioned established ideas. His early years as a student were marked by a tendency to clash with authority figures, a characteristic that would remain throughout his life. This independent streak, however, was instrumental in his later achievements, as it allowed him to think critically and challenge conventional wisdom, which would ultimately lead to the creation of the periodic table. Mendeleev's personal life was also a source of complexity. He experienced several turbulent relationships, including a troubled marriage to Fyodor Nikitina, whom he married in 1862. Despite their shared intellectual interests, Mendeleev's marriage was strained, and they eventually separated. He later remarried, but his second marriage to Anna Ivanovna Popova, which was more stable, came after a period of great personal reflection. Mendeleev's relationships with women were often fraught with tension, reflecting his sometimes conflicted feelings about his own identity and the roles of women in society. His personal struggles with love and marriage were not unique for his time, but they shaped the way he viewed the dynamics of family life, gender roles, and societal expectations. One of the most significant personal challenges Mendeleev faced was his constant battle with self-doubt. While his scientific achievements were widely recognized, Mendeleev often questioned the validity and long-term impact of his work. Despite his groundbreaking contributions, he was not immune to the uncertainties that many great thinkers experience. Mendeleev frequently questioned whether his theories were truly original or whether they had been influenced by the work of others. His anxiety over the potential for his ideas to be rejected or overshadowed by future discoveries led him to obsess over every detail of his research. This internal conflict, however, was not unusual for a man who was deeply committed to the pursuit of truth, no matter the personal cost. Mendeleev's philosophical views were heavily shaped by his experiences and his scientific career. He believed that science was not just an intellectual pursuit, but a means to improve society. Throughout his life, he viewed the advancement of knowledge as a critical force for social progress. This belief in the transformative power of science was particularly evident in his advocacy for educational reform in Russia. Mendeleev argued that Russia's scientific and industrial development was hindered by a lack of proper education and training. He believed that a more rigorous and systematic approach to education would not only elevate Russian science, but also improve the country's economy and social structure. This vision of science as a tool for societal improvement was at the heart of Mendeleev's work, and it guided many of his decisions throughout his life. Mendeleev's philosophical outlook also extended to his views on the role of the state in scientific advancement. He was an advocate for the modernization of Russia, and he believed that the Russian government had a responsibility to foster scientific and technological development. Mendeleev was not afraid to speak out on political issues, even when they might have been considered controversial. He recognized that for Russia to compete with the scientific powers of Western Europe, it needed to invest in education, infrastructure, and industry. His advocacy for government investment in scientific research and technological innovation was a reflection of his belief that scientific progress was intrinsically tied to national prosperity. Although Mendeleev's work was often highly empirical and focused on specific scientific questions, his broader philosophical views were influenced by a range of intellectual traditions. He was an admirer of the works of both European and Russian thinkers, including the philosophy of materialism. Mendeleev was deeply interested in the relationship between matter and energy, and he believed that the laws of nature could be understood through the application of reason and observation. This perspective aligned with his scientific work, which was rooted in the belief that the natural world was governed by logical principles that could be uncovered through careful analysis. Mendeleev's commitment to rationalism and empirical inquiry shaped not only his scientific achievements, but also his approach to life and his personal philosophy. Despite his confidence in his scientific endeavors, Mendeleev's personal struggles with fame and recognition were a persistent source of frustration. While he enjoyed considerable acclaim during his lifetime, especially in scientific circles, he was often overlooked in broader public discourse. His work was sometimes overshadowed by the work of other scientists, such as the German chemist Julius Lothar Meyer, who independently developed a similar periodic table. Although Mendeleev is now universally acknowledged as the primary architect of the periodic table, he spent much of his life battling the feeling that his contributions were undervalued. This sense of professional isolation contributed to his sense of self-doubt and fueled his constant drive for greater recognition and validation. Mendeleev's philosophy of science was also intertwined with his belief in the importance of intuition and creativity in the scientific process. While his periodic table was grounded in empirical data, Mendeleev often spoke of the role of intuition in scientific discovery. He famously said that the arrangement of elements in his table came to him like a vision, emphasizing the role of inspiration and imaginative thinking in scientific breakthroughs. This notion of scientific discovery as a balance between rigorous observation and creative insight is a key aspect of Mendeleev's intellectual legacy. It serves as a reminder that while science is rooted in facts and evidence, the most significant discoveries often require leaps of imagination and a willingness to think beyond the known. Dmitri Mendeleev's personal struggles and philosophical views are integral to understanding both the man and his scientific contributions. His intellectual brilliance was inextricably linked to the personal challenges he faced, from the struggles of his early life to his deep-seated doubts about his work. Mendeleev's ability to navigate these challenges while maintaining a vision of science as a force for societal progress speaks to his resilience and determination. His philosophical views, shaped by his scientific endeavors, continue to influence modern perspectives on the role of science in society. As much as Mendeleev's periodic table transformed the world of chemistry, his personal and philosophical journey offers valuable insights into the complex interplay between science, society, and the individual.